This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, Innovation Hub. NATO opens a Halifax office to boost startups and expand international markets.
Traffic shift. Halifax Council okays new bike lanes and makes Morris Street one way.
And beating the odds, how life-changing surgery gave this man back the use of his hands.
Not a bad start to the month of October so far, and temperatures for some areas up near 20 for your Thursday. I'll have your full forecast just ahead.
Good evening. A new international NATO alliance office opened today in downtown Halifax.
The office will act as an innovation accelerator, helping new companies develop, grow, and find customers both in North America and in Europe. The CBC's Brett Ruskin reports.
This new office is called DIANA, Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic. And there's already one in London, there's one in Estonia, and this is going to be the third one in the world based right here in Halifax. The hope is to bring together the right people to the right places, sitting at the right tables, to help companies that are just starting up to grow and to perhaps make it to market in one of the 32 member nations of NATO, and to create solutions for the defense sector, not just weaponry, but things like surveillance, things like human health and performance, critical infrastructure, things like that. Now, we heard from local MP and federal minister Sean Fraser talking about why this is good news for the region overall.
Look, this is good paying jobs in the city of Halifax and in the province of Nova Scotia. We have a unique opportunity to grow the tech ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem here in Halifax. I mentioned during my remarks that we've got a network of 300-something entrepreneurial startup companies in science and tech in the city. There's no reason that number can't grow significantly. In addition to those 300 enterprises, we've got thousands of people, disproportionately young people, who are actually finding good paying jobs in the tech sector in this city already. Halifax over the past few years, on any given year, has been the fastest or second fastest growing city in the entire country. And that's only going to continue to be successful if we create economic opportunities for the people who call this city home. We shouldn't forget as well that there's a lot of people who live in this city that do work in the Canadian Armed Forces, both on the military and civilian side, who are going to have unique opportunities to engage on issues of peace and security as a result of NATO DIANA's location being selected in Halifax.
The federal government has committed $26 million over the next 6 years to get this project up and running, again putting Halifax on the map in the minds of the 32 member states of NATO. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
The head of Nova Scotia Public Housing says things are improving, but there are still about 7,000 people on the wait list. Brian Ward says since the creation of a province-wide housing authority almost 2 years ago, the focus has been on improving the turnaround time between tenants and keeping vacancies to a minimum.
We have a vacancy rate of about 2.6%, and that's roughly about 280 85, 86 units that are vacant right now in our system. And we turn, on top of the unit turn, we also have between 100 and 120 people leaving per month. So we're getting better at the unit turn, and we're starting to decrease our vacancy rate.
Ward says with 11,000 units, chipping away at a 7,000-person wait list is going to take time. But opposition critics say the current effort by the province isn't good enough.
I think it's totally unacceptable. This government crows about the fact that they're going to someday in the next decade create 200 and change units when we have a 7,000 person wait list. I think that just shows the scope of the need that we have and how slowly, if at all, it's being met.
It's incredibly sad, obviously, from a human standpoint, to think of someone of any age, but particularly seniors, sitting on a wait list for 5, 6, 7, 8 years with no idea where they're going to live in the interim. It's incredibly difficult, and it's a sign of the scale of the problem.
The Houston government has promised to open another 273 new units. Ward says the first of those are expected to open in December of 2025, with the others ready by the summer of 2028.
Halifax is moving ahead with planning changes mandated by the province to speed up housing. They will allow large residential buildings started before 2027 to not have bedroom requirements, while right now a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms are needed. But some councillors found this concerning.
We need to be providing apartments with more than 1 bedroom, not just for families, but also to kind of just support, people who might want to be in roommate situations, where it's, cheaper to share an apartment than it is to have your own apartment. I think this is actually working against providing more affordable housing options. And it's not really creating communities where people can live throughout, all the phases of their life.
Other changes would allow manufactured housing like shipping containers in residential zones and not require parking for new buildings using city services. Halifax will accept public feedback in the coming months. The changes will be baked into the updated regional plan, which covers growth in the municipality, and will return to council early next year. Jay Scotland is in for Ryan tonight.
And a beautiful day out there, Jay. How's the rest of the week shaping up?
Well, we are looking at some cooler temperatures tonight in places. We are into October. Some patchy frost is possible. I think most areas across Nova Scotia, it's more of a risk of fog, but some inland, low-lying areas may see those temperatures dip down cool enough that some frost patches will be possible, certainly on the harder surfaces as we look to the overnight hours, early morning hours. Otherwise, if you're near the water, should help to mitigate that chance, but we could see some fog setting up with a very light and variable wind overnight. That wind does start to become a bit more organized into the morning hours from the west, increasing further into the afternoon. It's not blustery, but it's at least from a warmer wind direction, and the sky should be clearing. So mainly sunny afternoon, warm southwesterly winds should see temperatures up high teens to even 20 possible for some areas for your Thursday. I think we'll see those warmer temperatures stick around for Friday as well, but I'll be back with those details, your full 7-day forecast, in just a few.
Sounds
good. All right, we'll talk to you then. Halifax City Council is moving forward with a plan to add bike lanes on several streets on the peninsula that will help connect the east and west ends of the city's south end. But one change will require a popular thoroughfare to become a one-way street. Andrew Sampson has the details.
Imagine this, you're just finishing a study sesh at Dalhousie's Killam Library and you want to go for a bike ride to the waterfront. Right now, you'd head down University Avenue towards Roby Street, but once you got to Roby, good luck. The bike lane ends. But in the coming years, that will change. Halifax City Council voted in favor of adding protected two-way bike lanes on University Avenue and Morris Street. The move is part of the city's ongoing efforts to deliver an integrated cycling network on the peninsula. This was originally supposed to be done by 2022, and while we're a little late, this approval does represent a big step forward. The lane on University Avenue will go right smack dab in the middle of the street. But on Morris, they need to make room, so that area will become a one-way for motor vehicle traffic eastbound. Those are the big changes, but there's more. The new lanes will also connect to north and south cycling routes at South Park Street, so you can safely head to the Commons or Point Pleasant Park. Back near Dal's campus, there will also be 3 local bikeways added on Seymour Street, Carteret Street, and Oakland Road. This will connect the path to the urban greenway on Beaufort Avenue. So, how much will it all cost? The Morris Street work is estimated to be $5.1 million, University Avenue $8.6 million, and the West End connection $1.2 million. The city estimates the lanes will be up and running by 2028. Andrew Sampson, CBC News, Halifax.
Yesterday's Halifax Council meeting was the last for Mayor Mike Savage. He's not reoffering in the upcoming election later this month. Savage says this is the best job he ever had and thanked many in his final farewell last night.
My strongest feeling, though, after 3 terms as mayor is one of gratitude to all of those who've been part of the experience. To my council colleagues since 2012, thanks for your support, your dedication to council and to our municipality. Thank you for your agreement and thank you for your disagreement. Both have helped me in innumerable ways. Mostly, I thank you for your commitment to your community.
The Halifax municipal election will take place on October 19th.
The province is investing $4.2 million into the Capable program, the Community Aging in Place, Advancing Better Living for Elders pilot program, or Capable, provides seniors 65 or older with extra help to live independently. The program will expand to more than 10 new locations in HRM, including Highfield Park, downtown Dartmouth, Burnside, and Fairview.
Not only do these changes mean seniors remain living more independently in their homes, they also improve their self-confidence, self-esteem, and quality of life. And this, in turn, impacts the family members who love, care, and support them as well.
Other changes will allow for new skills and exercises to be learned, like rearranging furniture, repairing steps, and installing grab bars. Eligible seniors will be paired with a nurse, occupational therapist, and handy person.
The province's largest emergency department now has valet service. Patients who need care at the Halifax Infirmary but show up when the emergency department's 26 spaces are full can now have their vehicles parked for them. The service has been up and running for the past 2 weeks and may be available for the next 3 years. The province is paying nearly $1.5 million to keep it free for patients who no longer have access to the Roby Street Parkade, which is being torn down as part of the redevelopment of the QE2.
Now to a story of a PEI man who has benefited from a specialized surgery that is helping people with spinal injuries.
The surgery is fairly new in Atlantic Canada, and it helps people get to use their hands again, which can be life-changing. Laura Meter has that story.
Going into work is routine for Jeff Poirier now, but life is different for this vice president of a large aerospace company. 2 years ago, he suffered a major spinal cord injury in an ATV accident. He wasn't expected to have any movement below his shoulders. He's now considered to be a higher functioning quadriplegic.
Being told I wasn't going to be able to move my arms, being told I wasn't going to be able to go to work, being told I was going to be on 24-hour care, all those things I've proven the doctors wrong. They took some nerves from up here and they took them and inserted them in the back of my hand.
He did months of rehab and received a life-changing hand surgery. It just became available in the last couple of years to spinal cord patients in Atlantic Canada. Nerves and/or tendons are transferred from another part of the body to get hands moving.
We can move that nerve to another muscle that's paralyzed and bring movement back to the paralyzed muscle. That's the nerve transfer. So the tendon transfer, you move the muscle with its tendon over to another muscle.
It's significant. I mean, obviously it's given me a lot of my normal life back. Petting my dogs, driving the vehicle, picking things off the floor when I drop them.
Poirier's right hand worked okay, but even grasping a water bottle with his left hand used to be impossible. His Halifax surgeon says the procedures make a huge difference.
They're not able to move their fingers, so they can't grasp objects, they can't pinch things, they're not able to open their hand. And so this group of surgeries helps them do those tasks.
All those things that I took for granted prior to the accident, it has allowed me to have some of that normalcy back in life.
He says going back to work has helped him physically and mentally. He feels valuable. While he was in hospital, he thought about getting back here with his coworkers.
There's a video of them singing happy birthday to me on my 50th birthday when I was in a hospital in Moncton, where all 420 guys and girls get in a group and they sang it. And I probably watched that, 1,500 times.
And we knew just how mentally tough he was, which you need to be when you go through something like this. We knew that was going to help him through this, and so it was no surprise to us that he was able to achieve what he's been able to achieve, which is pretty amazing.
His dogs often come to work with him. They help him with anxiety. Now he wants to raise awareness about spinal cord injuries and wants people to know he wasn't wearing a seatbelt when he was injured.
And, my message is to everybody to think, that extra second about what they're doing and the ramifications of that before it does happen, because life is precious and it can certainly change.
He hopes many more people will be able to benefit from the surgery like he has. Laura Meter, CBC News, Slemon Park.
I know we said it many times on the show, but it's incredible, the advancements of medical care and how it can change lives. Perfect example right there.
Well, and hopefully this can help others who need that kind of help as well.
No doubt.
It's incredible.
All right, let's head right to break. We'll be back right after this.
Before we go, though, there's a look at Shuby Park. Ryan's up next with his full weather forecast. All right, so we're doing pretty well in October.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many more days like this there might be in this month. And we got the guy with us right now who can tell us what the near future looks like anyway.
Jay, you were talking about 20 degrees on Friday?
Yeah, tomorrow and Friday, temperatures will be up near, certainly near that mark. And in terms of how many more days we're going to see that warm, I mean, we are in October. Next comes November. December. Let's not even think about January. We know where this is heading is my point. So let's enjoy it Well, we got it. That's my point there. All right, there's a look at temperatures from this afternoon across Nova Scotia. Anywhere from 14 to 18 degrees. Few spots may have been a little bit warmer today as well. Inland areas was just with some daytime heating. Wind is fairly light, so we will watch for the risk of some fog patches to set up later this evening through the overnight hours. They could linger in a few spots into the morning hours, and it's the same process, the way we see fog forming and when we see frost forming. And if the temperature is in the very low single digits, near freezing at plant level, you could see instead of the dew point temperature, the frost point temperature reached, which could mean if you're not seeing some fog patches in your neck of the woods, you may see that actually forming in the form of some patchy frost. So just be mindful of that. Slight chance, no advisory in effect there, but a slight chance into the early morning hours tomorrow, just with that very light and variable wind, which will be calm at times through the overnight hours tonight. A ridge of high pressure is in place, hence the calm wind, and it sticks with us. We do have an approaching front from our west, but you take the battle of the ridge of high pressure and that approaching cold front, and really, the ridge is going to win out here. Aside from maybe some fog patches, some patchy frost tomorrow morning, we'll start out fairly sunny, mix of sun and cloud. As we head into the afternoon, that sky does begin to clear further, mid to late afternoon, mainly sunny sky. That wind will start to become a bit more organized and from a warmer wind direction. It's not blustery by any stretch, but the wind from the southwest will see those temperatures up even a smidge warmer than what we saw today. And then as we roll from Thursday into Friday, I think we're going to start out with maybe a mix of sun and cloud in the morning, and then we'll watch for clouds to increase into the afternoon. And that is ahead of what could be some wet weather as we get into the weekend. We'll get your 7-day forecast in just a moment. Let's break down what you can expect across the province through the overnight hours tonight. So anywhere from 5 to 9 degrees, few spots, maybe near the water, clinging to the double digits, but inland areas, low-lying areas. If you're in one of those frost-prone areas in a shoulder season, just be mindful that there is a chance we could see some patchy frost tonight. If you've got plants outside, you may want to cover them up, bring them indoors if you're able to, if you value them that much. We are in October at this point. And then tomorrow we'll start out with a mix of sun and cloud in the morning. Temperatures will warm up as that sky clears further for most areas into the afternoon. And yeah, Truro, as we look to the hub, 20 degrees, anywhere from 17 to around 20 for a daytime high tomorrow afternoon. Not as sunny, but we should see similar temperatures as we look ahead to Friday as well. So very similar weather, just those clouds increasing further on Friday. Ahead of those overcast conditions with a chance of showers as we get into your Saturday. Temperature still a little bit warmer than what we should be seeing for this time of year. Could see some showers, but some sunshine returning through the second half of Sunday. And then our next best bet for substantial rain, that's not until we get into next week. But Tuesday, even into Wednesday morning, we could be looking at some more significant wet weather. And yeah, temperatures starting to feel a little more October-like as well as we take a look at the long-range outlook over the next 7. Tom and Amy?
Bound to happen, Nobody can complain about that, I guess, after this last few weeks. Jay, thank you so much for that.
You got it.
Thank you, Jay.
A progressive Conservative candidate in New Brunswick is facing calls for her resignation. Sherry Wilson is under fire because on Monday, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, she issued a public statement drawing a connection between residential schools and provincial gender identity policies. Kayla Hounsell reports.
As New Brunswickers gathered to honor the children who didn't come home from residential schools, a political controversy was brewing.
To have that day and their memory darkened by a comment by a person running for a political party and putting her political spin on it was very disheartening.
On the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a progressive Conservative candidate released a public statement implying a parallel between residential schools and New Brunswick's policy on gender identity in schools. Last year, the PC government reversed a policy allowing teachers to use a student's preferred name and pronouns without parental consent. Candidate Sherry Wilson wrote, "We cannot afford to repeat the tragic mistakes that destroyed the lives of thousands of Indigenous families. Therefore, I am committed to keeping the parents of minor children aware of and involved in their children's development while they are entrusted to our government schools."
We're talking about kids that were taken from their families.
On a campaign stop, the PC leader says he doesn't agree with the post.
I don't think it's a comparison of anything that yields in today's world. I think the post that was put out missed the mark.
Sherry's idea.
Higgs, who was at a fundraising event with Wilson over the weekend, says the post has been removed, and as such, she wouldn't be removed from the ballot. Wilson did not respond to a request for comment. She isn't the only PC candidate to make this comparison.
It is elevating the government above the parents, right? We're seeing that. And is this not simply a repeat of what we did to the First Nations people with the residential schools?
Richardson is adamant this day of reflection should not be a polarizing flashpoint in an election campaign. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, conflict in the Middle East. Israel vows retaliation against Iran after its ballistic missile strike.
And SailGP will return to Canada in 2026, but will Halifax host another race? That's the topic of our Newsmaker after the break. This past summer, SailGP brought its global racing championship to Halifax, drawing tens of thousands of spectators. Now, Canada's entry has new ownership, and that means there's a chance the event might be coming back to the city for the 2026 racing season. All right, we're at the Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron. Billy Gooderham is with me now, flight controller for SailGP. You saw him on the water this past summer. Keeping the boat in the air, that's the #1 job for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, keep the boat in the air, don't screw it up, and keep everybody dry as well as much as possible.
It was very entertaining for sure. Quickly, just why are you here at the Yacht Squadron this week?
Yeah, so we have a can foil camp going on this week. So it's a camp, sailing camp that is trying to get people out foiling and out on the water and active. We live so much of our lives staring at the evil rectangle these days that camp like this, trying to get people out and active and sailing is a great way to give back.
Giving a little back, SailGP. Big news today for Team Canada and how it might impact Halifax. Can you kind of walk us through what happened with the ownership of the team?
Yeah, so obviously last season we were a league-owned team. We were owned by the league itself. With new ownership groups coming in for other countries, there was going to be one league-owned team that was going to go by the wayside for season 5, which starts in November, and we were on that chopping block. Fortunately, we now have a new owner in a man by the name of Dr. Greg Bailey. So we are now a privately owned team and off the chopping block. So that means that not only do we have a spot to race in season 5, but in 2026 we also have a home event somewhere in Canada. So
somewhere in Canada, that's the big question. Could it be, will it be back in Halifax?
Yeah, I mean, so the league does a competitive bid process for each event. So that process will happen again the same way as it happened for the previous event we had this summer. You would have to think that Halifax is definitely a front runner. We've had the event before. We broke every fan engagement record in SailGP history in that event, so you'd have to think we're a front runner, but that's a decision that's made sort of well above my pay grade by all those people at SailGP corporate.
But maybe some other Canadian cities saw what happened here in Halifax, are a little bit jealous, want a piece of that action too, so the bids will be coming in. Is there something Halifax could do, Nova Scotia could do, to sweeten things?
Well, I think obviously there's a huge amount of desire from all the levels of government, whether it's municipal, whether it's federal, whether it's provincial, to have the event here in Halifax. I know I was sort of talking to some people and they had said even if we didn't get a team, they still wanted a SailGP event to come back. I think where Halifax has a leg up is that they've done the bid process and the tender process before. So they have the experience of going through that, and obviously they know the things that they can do better to make it an even better experience. So I think it's in a good place to be a strong front runner.
Dollars are tight. There's lots of needs. Housing as one, just a big one that pops to mind. But this event did bring a lot of dollars to the city and to the province as well. Can you talk to me a little bit about the spin-offs now that you've had time to do some of the math?
Yeah, I mean, so it's, it costs money to have the event here, yes, but there's an economic impact that comes in from having the event. We had over 50,000 people up and down the waterfront over the course of the weekend when we had the event here. And what that does, it brings in revenues to the local businesses. It brings in tax dollars from everything that all the money people spent. And a lot of that money goes back into these programs that are so dearly needed within our community and within our society today.
What's your sense from the sailing community and from governments about the level of interest in this?
I think it's huge. I think when you look at from the sailing community, obviously everybody, it's a great spectacle. It's a great show. We always joke that this is it's not sailboat racing, it's entertainment, and that's what we really go for. So I think from the sailing community, there's a huge want to have the event back, and just from the general public, from an entertainment perspective, I think there's a huge desire to have it back. So
what happens now? How does this play out?
So there's a bid process that there'll be a deadline to submit bids to host the Canadian event, and at that point they will go through an interview process, basically picking apart the bit by bit, and then there'll be a selection process and a selection criteria that they go through to basically finally select a city.
You said the season starts in November. Where are you off to next?
So season starts in November. Yes, November 23 and 24 will be in Dubai.
You're all over this globe, aren't you?
Yeah, the frequent flyer miles come thick and fast when you're in this profession, but it's a great way to make a living.
Yeah, glad you had time for us today. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
By the way, Mr. Gooderham lives in Bedford. He'd be happy to race at home.
I think he likes his job, though, getting to travel all over the world, too.
Great travel job for sure. All right, this next story is about the GOAT. His name is Joshua, and he recently took home a medal in a half marathon in Newfoundland.
Now, he may have had a slight advantage, though, running on 4 legs instead of 2. You see, Joshua is, in fact, an actual GOAT. Have a look at this.
So we live right by the trail, and this is where the runners came by, approximately around 9 a.m. Sunday morning. And we didn't realize, but when the runners ran by and the large group of over 200, he decided to break his collar, which he's had on for years, right? And join the runners. And we found out from social media a few minutes later that he was after going about 2 kilometers, and he was stopped around the water station, one of the water stations where the runners would take a quick break. So we went along and stopped at the last spot. He was spotted, but they said they tried to hold on to him, but he was determined to keep running. So he's been our family pet for 10 years, and he knows it's pumpkin time. He sees all the pumpkins, and he's used to large groups of people, and he really gets involved. And when he's seeing the crowd running, he decided to join in, not really knowing this is one of the longest runs he've ever had. We decided to take him down to the finish line. And we couldn't get all the way, so we walked about half a kilometer, and he crossed the finish line. They gave him their medal, and the rest is it's gone crazy.
All right, well, coming up with market prices for coffee jumping, could that cup of Java be a jolt to your wallet?
Welcome back. The fighting and the rhetoric are heating up between Israel and Iran. Israel is threatening retaliation for Iran's missile attack and stepping up its military operations against Hezbollah, Iran's proxy in Lebanon.
Meanwhile, Iran is threatening more attacks against Israel's infrastructure. The CBC's Chris Brown has the latest.
Less than 48 hours after Israel sent ground troops into Lebanon, there are funerals for Israeli soldiers. A total of 8 Israelis were killed in fighting, with 7 other soldiers injured, making it the deadliest day for its military in nearly a year of clashes with the Iran-backed militant group. We are at the height of a difficult war against Iran's axis of evil, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a video as he offered condolences. Israel has announced it will send more troops into Lebanon, expanding the ground war with infantry and armor. It comes a day after Iran launched a huge salvo of ballistic missiles at targets throughout Israel in response, it says, for Israel's killing of top allies, including the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas. Iran says it struck 3 air bases and Israeli intelligence facilities, none of it confirmed by Israel, which claims most of the missiles were intercepted. But there was damage.
The explosion occurred, and all the world, even here, was shaking.
83-year-old Shmulek Sakari emerged from his bomb shelter to find the blast from a nearby missile impact had blown out the windows of his home.
The house was a multitude of glasses, no doors, no windows, everything, the TV flown up.
With the Jewish New Year holiday Rosh Hashanah beginning, he says his emotions are conflicted.
It should be something happy, but it can't be inside us to be happy. We don't know where we are going, where they push us to go.
The missiles fired by Iran were aimed at Israel, but they didn't just fall there. Some fell here in the occupied West Bank, where the only confirmed fatality was reported. In Jericho, hundreds of Palestinians gathered for the funeral of Sameh el-Asali. In a terrible twist of fate, he was a construction worker from Gaza, stranded in the West Bank for more than a year after the October 7th attacks. His distraught father, Kader, told us his son was hit by falling debris. He wanted to go home and see his kids. He was waiting for a ceasefire so he could go home, he said. Israeli officials stressed again that a response to Iran's attack is coming. Another front in an expanding war that's claiming yet more lives. Chris Brown, CBC News in Jericho.
As the fighting in southern Lebanon intensifies, the war in Gaza is ongoing. Hamas sources report that Israeli military strikes killed at least 50 Palestinians overnight. Israel's forces carried out air and ground operations throughout the Gaza Strip with a focus on central and southern areas of the territory. Among the targets was a school that was being used to shelter displaced families. Israel says 2 schools and an orphanage were being used as command and control centers by Hamas.
Prime Minister Trudeau spoke with other G7 leaders about the conflicts in the Middle East today, and he says Israel has a right to defend itself against attacks such as Iran's yesterday.
We unreservedly condemn Iran's ballistic missile attack against Israel. It is further destabilizing action by this terrorist regime in the region, putting civilians at risk and running the risk of a wider war.
Canada continues to press for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. There are 20,000 Canadians registered in Lebanon. Officials have heard from 4,000 who are seeking help getting out of the country. 100 got out on a flight on Sunday, and Canada has chartered flights with room for 1,000 more passengers. But so far, only 310 people are booked.
We have 654 seats available. So you can see that basically there's still lots of seats that are available to Canadians. So my point to those watching or listening to us is if you're offered a seat, please take it. And I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to leave your loved ones. I understand it's difficult to leave sometimes your home, but please, this is about your own safety and the safety of your loved ones, so please take the seat.
Tonight marks the beginning of the Jewish New Year. It comes 5 days before a grim anniversary, the Hamas attack on southern Israel last October 7th. Alison Northcott reports on what's changed in a year in some of Canada's Jewish communities.
Security used to not be necessary in Canada. In houses of worship.
Rabbi Adam Shire says synagogues have stepped up security significantly since last year's attacks against Israel.
Everything has been different since October 7th. The way that we gather as a community, our regular morning services, afternoon services, Sabbath services, everything is different. We're doing even more and doing even better, and that's with professional security guards, that's with surveillance and technology.
With the Jewish high holidays beginning, security is top of mind. In the Montreal area, police say there were more than 120 reported hate crimes targeting the Jewish community over the past year, including a bullet shot through a school door. Montreal police say they'll have an enhanced presence around synagogues. And where there were once open-door policies, access is now strictly limited.
My synagogue provides a wristband so that I can physically show that I belong. These actions are different than every other year. Our doors are not open because we fear a threat.
Among some members of the Jewish community, there's anxiety and resolve.
We're strong, and we're going to stick together this Rosh Hashanah holiday. And I imagine every synagogue is going to be on high alert, high security.
I will go because it's my duty to show that I'm not afraid.
The added security comes with added costs.
We've had to spend almost $100,000 a month securing institutions here on the West Coast. It's tough.
But he says Jewish groups are grateful Ottawa is making it easier for more organizations within at-risk communities to access more federal money for things like private security guards.
Unfortunately, hate crimes have risen in Toronto, particularly targeting the Jewish community.
Toronto police will also increase patrols, with command posts in Jewish neighborhoods and near mosques as the first anniversary of the October 7th attacks approaches. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
The U.S. military has released video of a startling aerial encounter that seems straight out of the movie Top Gun. It happened while a fighter jet was shadowing a Russian reconnaissance aircraft flying near Alaska. The video shows a Russian fighter jet coming up from behind and streaking past the American plane with just meters to spare. The incident comes after a series of incursions into the Alaska Air Defense Zone, just beyond U.S. sovereign airspace. NORAD's commander called the Russian pilot's conduct unsafe, unprofessional, and a danger to all. CBC News has learned that 3 more women have come forward to allege sex offenses against embattled billionaire Frank Stronach. Stronach is facing 4 new charges, including rape and indecent assault. They stem from alleged incidents in Toronto in 1981 and 1983, and in Gormley, Ontario in 1993. In all, 13 women have told police that the now 92-year-old Stronach assaulted them. The Magna International founder faces a total of 17 criminal charges, including sexual assault and forcible confinement. Stronach has denied any wrongdoing.
The Liberals voted against a Bloc Québécois motion this afternoon, a move that could eventually lead to the toppling of the minority government.
Blanchet.
Monsieur Blanchet.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie.
Monsieur Sainte-Marie.
The motion asked Parliament to back an increase in the old age security pension for seniors between 65 and 74 years old. The motion got a majority of votes today, but because it is a financial matter, the change cannot take effect without the government's backing. The Liberals are reluctant in part because of the $16 billion price tag. The Bloc now says that unless the Liberals get behind the motion and another motion protecting the supply management system, it will enter talks with other opposition parties to bring down the government. Well, your cup of coffee could soon cost more. The price of raw beans is already trending up. Anis Haydari explains why.
Even before it hits grocery shelves, coffee is getting more expensive, and this Calgary company is feeling the jolt.
What we've seen is a considerable increase over a year, sitting at currently 70 to 80% upwards.
Roasters like this one try to buy beans in advance when prices are lower, locking in lower costs to keep things stable in a changing market. But ups and downs in the international price of coffee have changed to mostly ups.
Which leads to our farming partners and our cooperatives realizing that they can get more money by defaulting on a contract rather than honoring pricing that they set 2-3 months before.
That's just one factor driving up the cost of Java. It's drought that's started these price increases in Brazil and Vietnam. Climate change is making the problem worse.
We're going to be experiencing more intense and longer periods of dryness or more intense and longer periods of wetness. And those now place that coffee plant outside of that optimal growing condition.
So far, producers say this situation hasn't hit consumers' wallets.
Not yet, but yes, it will. And that will result in uptick in prices on coffee down the road.
I think these price increases are really going to come into effect in 3 to 6 months.
Because the coffee itself is just one part of the price you pay, it's hard to say how much that will increase at a cafe or store. But the companies in the middle are worried.
What we do know is a market being 80% up is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for us as coffee roasters, and it's not going to be sustainable for the consumer. Just
how high that market gets could depend on how dry it gets in Brazil. And that has roasters praying for rain. Anis Haydari, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, kids of all abilities in BC's Okanagan are getting a chance to play a new sport. The region's first youth wheelchair basketball program kicked off this week in West Kelowna.
As Brady Strachan reports, the program gives children with disabilities an opportunity to experience team sports and build friendships along the way.
With the swish of a hoop, these kids are rolling into a sport that's fun, inclusive, and full of energy. Organizers say this wheelchair basketball program is the first of its kind in the region. It's bringing kids with physical disabilities and those who are able-bodied together, much to the delight of parents like Ali Khan.
Just to see them light up and to automatically make friends with their peers out here, it's very heartwarming.
For his two sons, Everett and Emery, it's a chance to make new friends and learn valuable lessons on and off the court.
I just liked it because I got to play it with my friends on the bus and my brother. And I liked meeting new friends here too.
It looked like a lot of fun.
It was really fun.
For many families like Melissa Grasmix, the new program is breaking barriers.
If you have a physical disability, until now, you had 0 team sports that you could join. 0 compared to, maybe 20 or 30 if you're able-bodied. So now to have this for kids it's so special.
Her daughter Julia is one of the rising stars on the court, already setting big goals for the future.
My favorite sport is probably wheelchair basketball. And I'm gonna go to the Paralympics in 2028.
Win or lose, in the end, it's all about building camaraderie and confidence.
I really like teamwork when it's like a big scrimmage, like everybody working together. Yeah.
BC Let's Play and the BC Wheelchair Basketball Society provides the necessary equipment, like these specialized wheelchairs that allow for speed and quick turns.
So if you stop really quickly, your feet don't fly out like that, and they stay in the foot plate.
And after all the fast breaks, baskets, and scrimmages, it's the spirit of the sport that wins.
Good job, bud. Good job.
Brady Strachan, CBC News, West Kelowna.
All right, one last chance to check in on the weather forecast. Jay Scotland standing by in the CBC Weather Centre.
And not a bad stretch in front of us.
No, not too bad. I mean, temperatures in October up near 20 degrees. I don't think you'll find too many folks complaining about that. And that chance for some frost tonight, very slight just for certain areas, low-lying areas away from that marine influence. Otherwise, some patchy fog and fairly quiet conditions with that wind continuing to ease through the evening hours and overnight. So as we look through the overnight hours tonight, we will see, again, just a few clouds. Likely, if we see them, they're going to be low clouds, so in the form of fog patches. This forecast model showing a mainly sunny start to the day. I am expecting a mix of sun and cloud through the morning hours with further clearing into the afternoon. And that wind will, light and variable tonight, start to veer to the southwest. It's not going to be blustery by any stretch, but it will start to usher in some milder air. So we will see those temperatures into the afternoon up near 20, some spots. Truro, for example, could actually see that temperature top 20 degrees into the afternoon. So starting out tomorrow morning with that chance of some fog patches. This is for the HRM. If you're inland, that you could be looking at some frost patches. I think hard surfaces more than vegetated surfaces, but just know that that risk is there. Fog or frost into the early morning hours tonight with a light westerly wind. That wind does start to veer around to the southwest into the afternoon. Any clouds we see into the early afternoon do start to dissipate, becoming mainly sunny, and that temperature mid-afternoon likely around 19 degrees in Halifax, and again, some areas near 20. So for early October, not a bad forecast for Thursday. I don't think it'll be quite as sunny on Friday, but I'm expecting a similar daytime high before the clouds and the showers start to move back in for the weekend.
Could be a lot worse. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, it could. Yeah.
It's been wonderful. Okay, thanks so much, Jay.
We'll take it. Thank you, Jay.
Well, if you spend a lot of time on social media, you'll probably recognize this adorable baby hippo. Mu Deng, the pygmy hippo, has gained millions of social media fans since she was revealed to the world in a Thailand zoo in July. Mu Deng is so popular in Thailand, in fact, Many businesses are racing to cash in on the craze.
There are cakes shaped like mudeng, like one from a cafe in Bangkok that prompted a surge of orders. And there are many artists selling mudeng merchandise, and the baby hippo's image is even being used to sell makeup. Mudeng mania doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon.
Apparently not. All right, that is it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.